Oh, hello, I'm Bobman here, and you caught me just in time to give you my review of Yakuza 5 for the Nintendo 3DS. It's a perfect 10 out of 10! Speaking of 10 out of 10s, two of my favorite games I played this year were Yakuza Like a Dragon and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Both phenomenal games in their own right, but I couldn't figure out which one I liked more. Both of them just do so good in so many ways that the only logical solution was to make a 40-minute long essay about which one I liked more and comparing them in insane detail. I also could have just flipped a coin, but this seemed more practical. Alright, now for quick context. Ocarina of Time had a baby. Boom. Majora's Mask. But this isn't your average baby because it is weird. This is a weird-ass baby. I'm talking hands coming up toilets kind of weird baby, you know? It also has this time mechanic that no other game in the series has or ever will have, but hey, we still got the horse, we got the fairies, all the NPCs are actually just reused, except the running man who is now a postman. It's kind of like sipping water out of the same glass you left on the counter for a week. Alright, now welcome to the world of Yakuza. Serious crime drama where our main protagonist sings karaoke songs and dances to Lady Gaga. But unfortunately, on the 8th installment, Lady Gaga singer Kiryu Kazuma will no longer be joining us, as we will be swapping to this fuzzball over here. Oh yeah, the series also went from this to this. Ugh, I feel dirty. Yeah, this game might be one of the biggest pivots you could ever do in a video game series, but hey, they did it, and it came out really good. And also weird as fuck. Did I mention it's weird? Yeah, I don't know what happened, but these are my two favorite games of the year. Whoa. What is going on there? Just so things are clear, very minor spoilers ahead. Nothing too crazy since I want you guys to play these games and I don't want to blow the load here, but yeah, few things ahead. And the way we'll be doing this is there will be 3 points distributed throughout the video. One for setting, aka story, world, characters, all that jazz. Next is presentation, that's your visuals, your music, your sound design. And the final one is gameplay, just how good does the game truly play. Alright, now that we got all that out of the way, let's get into it. From the start of Majora's Mask, you can tell this is a different type of game. Your horse gets nabbed by this funky looking dude, and the wildest trip of your life begins as you eventually wake up as a Deku Scrub. You're told by this mask salesman to get the mask back from the kid that was wearing it in 3 days. So you explore and play the game, but maybe just get the idea, and even just for a second, you look up. You'll see it. The moon is one of the most well-recognized pieces of imagery used in any Zelda game. You aren't told of it by some person pushing a plot, you just notice it. As the days go by, it gets closer and closer, but by the final day, you see the kid on top of the clock tower. By the time you get up there, the moon is closer to the clock tower than you could ever imagine. You hook a snot rocket up to the kid and you see him drop your ocarina. The moon is minutes away from destroying the world, but before it's too late, you play the ocarina, set yourself back 72 hours, and realize that's it. That's all the time you get. The game's stakes are laid out in front of you the very first time you set back that clock. The concept is novel to say the least, and leads to so many interesting gameplay aspects that I will get into later on. But for now, I want to talk about something else that defines this game. This game juggles with the idea of death so much more deeply than any Zelda game ever has to this day. Everything in this game is defined by what it means to live, and what is the point of being alive. It's incredibly profound for a Zelda game, but I'll talk about that in just 1 minute. We're going to be trading over to the other guy for a little. The story of Yakuza Like a Dragon is the perfect introduction to our new protagonist Ichiban Kasuga, as it tackles Ichiban and his life when he comes out of prison after taking the fall for a member of his Yakuza family. When he comes out of prison, the world has changed and he has to figure out what's going on and why the leader of his clan seems to be against him. The story is less about tackling the greater Yakuza world, although it very much does that as well. It focuses more on showing Ichiban in very specific scenarios and showing how he reacts. all coming to a head with a very emotional story and a true passing of the torch to Ichiban becoming the new main character of this franchise. Now, the whole story is great, but it has a couple of things I like to call Yakuza-isms. Yakuza-ism, the act of silliness to the utmost amount while everyone treats it with complete seriousness like this is some normal shit or something. But yeah, one of the Yakuza-isms in the story is really bad. I mean really, really bad. But if you're able to overlook it, this is an incredible story about a character finding who they are and what's their purpose in this world. Especially the final scene. Like, once again, no spoilers or anything, but oh my god, it's good. And the best part, we only play as this guy the whole time, which means if he doesn't know something, I get to learn it with him, because my god, I did not play the rest of the series, I don't know who these people are. Although sometimes they make it a little bit obvious when someone important is on screen. Like, I don't know who Buck and Barry are, but we've been talking about how cool they are for the past 5 minutes, so clearly something's up here. Also, the writing in this game is just hilarious. Like, Yakuza games normally have the reputation for being pretty goofy games, but this game is just flat out funny.
So, how'd it go?
Get this. They're sending their most popular girl over here. For free.
Whoa, really?
Oh, really, I swear. Like, sex shops will do anything to stay competitive. They said she'd be here soon.
Sorry for the wait.
Huh?
Oh, what the? Who the heck are you?
Are you, Adaki-sama?
Yeah, that's me.
Sorry for the wait. I'm Gary Buster Holmes from Poundmates.
Poundmates? Is that a sex shop?
Now, that's not to say this game's a comedy. Once again, it takes itself very seriously when it needs to. But honestly, it definitely treats itself a lot more like a comedy than the rest of the games, which, personally, I like a lot more. Ichiban is such a fun, eccentric character. For everyone to take themselves so seriously around him just wouldn't make sense. Speaking of, let's talk about this guy a little bit. Say hi, everyone.
Hey, how's it going?
Ichiban is a polar opposite character to what the old protagonist Kiryu was like. Look, you can tell because the colors are inverted. Where Kiryu had a very rough and cold exterior, Ichiban wears his feelings on his sleeves and has such an addicting personality. Ichiban's that type of guy you grab a beer with and just relax while you watch a game of snooker or something. He's just such a charming character you want to root for no matter how stupid he sounds. Like here, let's play a game. Guess what his dream in life is? World peace? End famines? Women? Well, yes, actually, but no. His goal in life is to become a hero like his favorite game, Dragon Quest. This is a real thing in the game that RGG asked the creator of Dragon Quest for permission to use the brand of Dragon Quest in the game to make this joke. And you see why he's my favorite character now. I also want to be a hero from Dragon Quest. Now, he's not perfect by any means, but as writing a human goes, he's written exceptionally well. He's not some one-note, happy-go-lucky protagonist. We see him show the full array of emotions. We see him angry, sad, distressed. We see him struggle to have to adapt to the world he lived in after 18 years in prison. We see him homeless and scrounging for money as he's still trying to push forwards and figure out what he's doing in this world. When he's at his lowest, he sees people help him out, and he helps them right back when he gets the chance. He sees how corrupt the world is, and while still pushing to get the answers he's been looking for since he left prison, he never forgets anyone who helped him on his journey so far. Okay, now I want to pivot back to Majora's Mask and talk about the world Link has found himself in. The Land of Termina. Alright, recap. Look up, Moon, that's your recap. Now, as Link is aware of the impending doom coming towards everyone, the people of Clocktown seem to not care at all. People are even blowing it off, denying the idea the moon is even going to hit them. You really think that moon's gonna kill us? I'll slash that moon before it even gets the chance. Oh god, oh please, oh no, oh god, oh my family, oh I'm so scared. And as you do more in the game, you discover more stories of citizens through their last 3 days alive. A personal favorite of mine is the Sisters of Romani Ranch. I won't be going into full detail here, but I'm linking a video by Zeldum in the description as I think it's a great video. Romani Ranch, run by two sisters Cremia and Romani. On day 1, in typical Majora's Mask fashion, you need to defend off aliens from the ranch or their cows and Romani will be abducted and you cannot continue the storyline. If you succeed, the very next day you're tasked with helping Cremia bring an order of milk to Clocktown while the Gorman brothers try to destroy it. After finishing that, you have succeeded the Cremia and Romani storyline. So, happy ending, right?
No.
We learn Cremia is in love with someone in Clocktown, a man who's getting married to her best friend. We also learn Cremia takes care of the ranch on her own ever since their father passed away. And now, Cremia, understanding the world is coming to an end, has Romani sleep with her that night, has to hold on to the last person she has left in her life before the world inevitably ends. Remember, that's the good ending. Oh, and the man and Cremia's best friend, they also have a storyline that is great, as well as one of the most complex ones. And the ending to it is very touching, with both of them staying together as the moon inevitably kills them and everyone else in town. The world of Termina is incredibly deep and rich with character everywhere you look. Everyone's got a story, and it makes it one of my favorite worlds in any video game. Even down to just abilities like the main 3 masks you get, where you turn to a Deku, Zora, and Goron. Those aren't just items. Those are the souls of people that have died. You're taking on a form of them to finish up any loose ends in their lives that they weren't able to do themselves. It's such a dark story for a series that never took anywhere close to a risk like this. And these little character dissections and the stories that are told from them just makes Majora's Mask feel like it has a meaning, a reason to exist. When deciding which of these settings and stories I liked more, it comes down to what hooked me more. And for me, I was just truly hooked by Like a Dragon's story. And I'd be lying to say Ichiban wasn't the majority of that. He's just a salt of the earth kind of character, and I love him for it. Not to say I don't love Majora's Mask world though. I adore Termina and everything about it. I mean, you heard me just talk about it. That being said, it's just something with the incredibly rich world Yakuza gives us and Ichiban as a character and this being a fantastic introduction to not only the character, but to the world of Yakuza. And I was just simply amazed by how good that game was, and how amazing the story that was told was. This meaning our very first point will be rewarded to Yakuza Like a Dragon. On to round 2, which is presentation. Okay, now I wanted to talk about the presentation of these games and which one wins where, but you see the problem, right? Like, I love blocky old Link here, he's cute as a button. But no chance this 20 FPS nightmare is topping. But at the same time, while I love Like a Dragon soundtrack, and there's an argument to be made of how great it is. Come on, man, Zelda's got this fucking dude, look at his goddamn resume. He is just one of the greatest composers of all time, and yes, nothing is going to top Majora's Mask's music. So, we're going to make a deal here. I'm going to talk about Like a Dragon's visuals and what I love about them. And I'm going to talk about Majora's Mask music and what I love about that. Then we'll come back at the end, and I'll say which one I just like more, and we're going to move on, okay? Nice. Also, I don't talk about sound design at all because I know nothing about it, but they're both good, so that's all that matters. Okay. Like a Dragon is such a great looking game, man. This game has so much personality, and the visuals reflect that. Now, it's not the best looking Yakuza game out there, as I assume they had to focus on the amount of content they're dealing with over pure visuals. But for a game that has a complete overhaul of everything Yakuza's ever done, plus a map 3 times the size, it's a damn good looking game. Also, just the cutscenes, man. Yakuza cutscenes are just something special every single time they start playing, and this game is the king of having cutscenes. So, it's a damn treat every time we got to see one. I also may be crucified for this, but I don't really give a damn. The English voice acting team absolutely killed it in this game. I could not ask for a better performance from any of the actors, especially Keiji Tang as Ichiban. He is perfect for that role. Anyways, let's get this stuff out of the way, Mr. Kondo, if you mind coming in here. But like, oh my god, I've never seen a man more zesty in his life. He was absolutely cooking when he made this soundtrack. Like, I'm gonna shut up and just play it for a little bit. Here, listen. And I don't just praise the soundtrack because it sounds good, but for each song having narrative purpose throughout the game. Let's take the most important location of the game for example, Clocktown. Day 1, you get the classic Clocktown theme. It's so cheery and fun, giving that perfect vibe to the town. Now by day 2, the song starts picking up a little bit. Gives a sense of uneasiness to the whole day, like there's no time to relax, you gotta keep moving. And by day 3, that classic Clocktown theme is now more delirious than ever, and with this deep, ominous bass tone. Like, on the surface, it's the same cheery, bubbly, fun song, but you look up and realize that today is the final day for everyone. It's so bone-chilling and a perfect development of a single theme you hear every time you play the game. Now, I don't know a lick about music theory and why these songs work so well, but what I do know is the soundtrack is a damn masterpiece, and I gotta praise it every time I hear it. If I had to choose between Like a Dragon or Majora's Mask for which had the better presentation, surprisingly, I gotta go with Majora's Mask, which, yeah, looks like this and runs like this. I almost think that adds to the charm of the game. Like, this is a weird, creepy Zelda. So the outdated, gross-looking textures of some of the places in Majora's Mask helps lean into that feel a lot more for me. Like, look at the 3DS remake style. Everything's a lot brighter, and it just doesn't have the same eeriness the original had. And my god, man, that style of visuals comboed with the music, it just works so damn well together. And once again, Like a Dragon has a fantastic soundtrack, and I love a lot of the music in that game. But nothing compares to the feeling of a Zelda game, man. And just how the locations and visuals intertwine so perfectly with each other. They treat video games more than a sum of its parts. They make sure that everything works so well together and invokes feelings that you cannot capture otherwise. So for this round, point goes to Majora's Mask. And we're moving on to the final part of the video. Let's talk about the game part of the games. Like a Dragon's gameplay is such a unique experience. mixing the classic Yakuza overworld style chock full of mini-games and sub-stories, but because our main protagonist is schizophrenic, he sees everyone as silly monsters that he can fight like in Dragon Quest. But instead of the generic JRPG combat style, this game takes place in a 3D space where the positions of you and your enemies and the time you attack them actually matters. This hybrid of the classic Yakuza beat-em-up combat style translated into a JRPG is so genius and bizarre. I can't really name any games that play like it, but of course, when you come up with a concept on your own, that means you're also the one that has to figure out what works and what doesn't. This ends up making a lot of the mechanics feel kinda half-baked. Like, the position of where the characters are matters, but you can't walk around or control your positioning in any way. This makes what could have been an incredibly deep combat system into a clever concept with some funny quirks to it, but nothing more than that. Speaking of half-baked, jobs! Now before I say anything, I love the concept behind jobs. Having Ichiban and the gang getting to play dress up and learn certain moves along with it is great. But I feel like they were meant to be so much more. A clear example of this is the Foreman job. It has the ability to break down walls in the overworld in dungeons and go to secret areas. That is really cool. It's also the only job in the entire game that can do anything like that. Also, you get stat boosts depending on the level of your job and lose all those stat boosts when you swap jobs. Why? All it does is make me want to use the other jobs less, since I know I have to grind out the new job to get back to my level that my old job was at. The only caveat to this fact is that when you level up a certain job, you get permanent moves for leveling up. Like the Fortune Teller gets you a permanent revive move even when you swap to other jobs. And the Chef can get you... Yeah, for some reason some moves that use very low SP do obscene amounts of damage. And yes, there's one particular move for one particular character that's even cheaper and even more stupid broken, but I'm not going to spoil who it is, so... It just feels weird that sometimes half my arsenal of moves are just useless because I can just crack pepper on some dude's eyes and he collapses over. Now, this problem kind of fixes itself by late game where you have to play around the weaknesses of enemies a lot more, which is also a mechanic in this game. You've got your classic moves like fire, ice, electric, but you also got bashing, slashing, and gun moves. Most enemies in the main campaign don't really have resistances, just weaknesses. So sometimes it's fun to try and find their weakness, but most of the time their weakness doesn't really matter because I can just hit them with a different move that does more damage and is cheaper than the single fire move the game gave me. Oh yeah, and on a side note, when you do attacks, you actually get this little quick time event before you hit to do extra damage. And when an enemy attacks, you can actually time your blocks to get a perfect block that negates more damage. The moves you get to use in this game are so incredibly fun to watch, especially Namba's for some reason. Who knew being homeless made you have one of the funniest fighting styles in video game history? Oh, and then you got essence moves. It's the same appeal as seeing heat moves in any other Yakuza game, but instead of seeing a dude's head get slammed into a door like any other game, this game has some special moves. All the jobs get such fun and unique moves in this game, and you can tell that was really their main goal at the end of the day. Sure, I can complain about some of the RPG aspects not being the best, but at the end of the day, it's a solid RPG and one of the most fun ones to watch at that. And the difficulty of this game isn't bad either, sometimes. Yeah, this game jumps from baby easy to fighting God himself, which probably should be a bad thing, but it makes those fights feel so much more special. Like you're really fighting some legends in the Yakuza world. And if a fight gets a little too tough for you, there's something to help you out here.
I summon you! You want sudden death or sudden conquest? In service with a pounding.
Yeah, so these are pound mates. They're basically summonable essence attacks, and you unlock them from playing the main story and sub-stories. And man, if they're not just a treat to watch every time, it's such a fun way to make the friends you make along the way actually mean something as they come back to help you in a pinch. Moving on though, let's talk about sub-stories.
Bubbles? What are you talking about?
Here, see for yourself.
Sub-stories are a Yakuza staple, and is normally where Yakuza gets its reputation for being a little goofy. And in the goofiest Yakuza yet, you can bet these sub-stories are some of the funniest in the entire series. The sub-stories in this game are insane and wacky, and I genuinely couldn't name one I dislike. Some of my personal favorites consist of Mr. Masochist, Giant Roomba, Miracle Kimchi, Phono Michio, and the Bear. Her name's Catherine. Along with the fun and wackiness of sub-stories, Yakuza is also known for its minigames, and this game delivers on those just as well. First, you got Can Quest here. You're on a bike trying to fight homeless people for cans that you can trade for a half-eaten bento or a couple bugs.
You know, it's kind of cute, it's kind of okay, but I want to show the group something that's a little bit more my speed. All right. Well, I guess you're right, Reggie. That really is more your speed.
We also got the business minigame, where Ichiban goes from homeless man to multi-millionaire. And of course, now, let's talk about where most of this game takes place. The main map of Isezaki Ijincho, Yokohama, which is based on the real-life Isezaki-cho district. And I'm talking, they kind of just copied it one-to-one in some areas. Like, this is real life, this is the game. Identical. Now, this map is very large. In fact, it's about 3 times larger than Yakuza's most famous map, Kamurocho. And this map is jam-packed with buildings you can just walk into GTA style and explore. There's a bunch of restaurants you can walk into and get food with your team, and even get a little conversation depending on what you order. Speaking of, as you walk around the town and by certain areas, you get little conversations with the team and learn a bit about them. This increases your bond level with them, which means when you go to grab a drink with them, they can learn more jobs and skills, but also you get to learn a little bit more about them. Normally it's way more personal stuff than just like tidbits of their lives. You get to really learn what this character is like. Especially one of them that had a lot of explaining to do, if we're being honest. Now, as I'm wrapping up this conversation about Like a Dragon, I just want to mention how much love and care was poured into this game. Any problems I've mentioned with this game is more out of the fact that this team pushed themselves far beyond their comfort zone and made a style of game never attempted before. Not that this excuses any of the problems I've stated before, but more that they are hardly talking points when you're playing this game for the first time. It feels like there's a million things to love about this game. Like Ichiban. Anyways, link time down, baby! Let's go! Majora's Mask is such a damn treat to play, man. Dare I say, it might be one of the most creative games I've ever played in my life. And it was made on this damn console. Look, I love the N64, but my god, man, Zelda Team was pushing this thing to the max with this game. For reference, only 3 games requires the expansion pack on the N64. And this game used it to the damn extreme. That being said, Zelda Team created nothing short of a masterpiece on this one. As I've stated before, the world of Termina is so rich and deep with interesting characters in every location. And the greatest thing about this game is its sole mechanic. Time. With that timer at the bottom of the screen, there's always a sense of productivity within the game. You never want to waste a moment of time, as there's always more you could be doing before the moon hits the clock tower. Now, technically, if you think about it, that means the timer means nothing, as you can reset it infinitely. But then you get punished with the worst punishment possible. Waiting. If there's any task that requires multiple days worth of planning that you screw up, sorry buddy, you gotta wait until the next cycle to complete that now, as you failed. Now, if we're being fair, on a first playthrough, you can definitely screw up in a lot of ways that you can probably agree it's not your fault. This game is very old, and sometimes the clues are not the clearest, but for the most part, if you screw up, probably your fault. And this leads to some of the most intense and satisfying gameplay I've ever played. It all revolves around your ability to be efficient and use your time wisely. I remember sessions of playing this game where it felt like there wasn't a moment of downtime for 2 hours straight. This time system makes you want to play the game so much more, because the more you play, the more tasks you get, the more tools you get, which helps you become even more efficient in playing the game. It's a self-gratifying loop that the game puts you in every single cycle, and it gets more and more fun as you play. This style of gameplay also forces the developers to have a lot more respect for your time. This game is crafted very carefully in that everything has to have a meaning, or else the player is going to feel like they're just wasting time and should be doing something else. I mean, unless it's Dampé's gravedigging thing, he is definitely wasting your time. It's like writing a damn itinerary to Disney World. There's so much to do and hit each and every day, it feels overwhelming to a point. But when you make that plan for the cycle and you commit to it and it works perfectly, and you even have a little time to spare, there's not a better feeling in the world, man. It's the same feeling I get playing Pikmin, which is scientifically proven to feel better than sex, so clearly they're doing something right. Okay, I'm gonna be brief on this, but it'd be a crime not to mention this game's claim to fame here: the masks. The masks in this game are so incredibly unique from each other, and you can tell the developers made sure that each one had meaning. Now, of course, some of the masks are just one-time uses, but yeah, with the amount of masks you get, that's sort of to be expected. But some masks that look like they would be one-time uses end up having super fun random uses, like having different dialogue options if you talk to an NPC with it on. Now, my favorite Easter egg being with the Bremen mask. This mask is used early on to create a marching line of baby chickens that grow into big chickens. But if you use the Bremen mask during the skeleton fight, also, if you put on the mask of their dead leader, here's the boss's reaction. These are just such fun little Easter eggs, and I love that they're in this game because they really didn't have to be. Now, I do kind of wish there were more masks like the blast mask here, which you can actually try to use for some niche combat situations. Or glitches. A lot of people seem to be using it for glitches, but still, my point stands. Now, let's talk about the big 3 transformation masks in the game. I love all of them. Each of their unique mechanics handle great and are super fun to use, and have their own special areas which feel like perfect playgrounds for each mask. Except the Goron mask, which is kind of like an all-terrain vehicle. It kind of can go anywhere. It also is like an all-terrain vehicle in that it hits like a damn truck. Yeah, this mask is busted, but I love Goron, so it's perfectly fine. Moving on, let's talk about dungeons. They're also good. Shocker, I know. They took everything they learned from Ocarina of Time's dungeons and evolved upon them. Now, admittedly, as someone who got all the masks, I kinda wish you could use them a bit more in the dungeons. Woodfall Temple, you just use the Deku mask. Snowhead Temple, Goron. Great Bay, Zora. But psych, I lied to you, welcome to Stone Temple, bitch! Every tool, every mask, all the knowledge you've gained up to this point is not only tested to get up to Stone Temple, but then to get through it. Best temple in the game, oh my god, it's so damn good! Sometimes dungeons in Ocarina of Time felt a little monotonous. You know, I'm just going key hunting. These rooms are just a clever way to make me work towards getting the key, and whatever item I'm going to use to beat the boss with. But Majora's Mask dungeons, they all have so much to do in them. Woodfall, which is the most basic of the 4 temples, still nails this. It's got a fun layout, and it has a bunch of stray fairies to collect that get you a reward if you collect them all. And a mini-boss frog you can defeat with the Danjiro mask. You can summon him and find the rest of his frog brethren to have the frog choir reunite for one last time. I love this game. Also, this is Aldawa, the final boss of Woodfall's Temple, and is one of my favorite bosses in the entire game. He's just psychotic. It doesn't feel like there's a clear way to beat him or a weak spot either. The game just puts you two in a room together, and with any resources you got, win the fight. With the other bosses, which are still good fights, you just have more of a clear set idea of how to defeat the boss. Goat here, you gotta run into him with the Goron mask and then just start wailing on him. Then we got George. I like George. Not really though, you can't just spam arrow the him and call it a day. And Twin Mode, which is a cool fight visually, you just kinda smack around a lot with your sword. All fine fights on their own with a bunch of little tricks and optimizations to make them more fun. Except George, sorry buddy, you're just really boring. But with Odawa, man is jumping around, summoning monsters, swinging his sword, creating a damn ring of fire. It feels like a genuine battle where he's throwing everything he's got at you and he expects you to do the same back to him. No option is unavailable here on either side. And this style of boss fight is, in my opinion, the best the series has to offer. Alright, I'm gonna make this last part really quick here as I don't think it deserves a whole conversation, but minigames. They are absolutely absurd, and I think I need to hear more people talk about these. So first we got the bow minigames, right? These are ludicrously hard for no reason. Like, genuinely, the game never asks you to be this precise with a bow, except for these minigames. Then we got the Honey and Darling Shop, which honestly isn't too bad, but Day One's Bomb Chew game? Oh, that one sucks. It's just spinning on a platform while you're dropping bomb chews, and then halfway through it, the platform speeds up. Any sense of rhythm you had is gone. But then we have my all-time favorite minigame, Doggy Racing. There's no skill to this game. It is simply pick a dog and race. To get the heart piece from this, you have to wager 50 rupees and win first place to get that prize. If you get third or below, you have to go get those rupees back and then come back and then try your luck again. It is the most absurd mission in all of Majora's Mask, and I think it is also the funniest one. Now, with that all being said, Majora's Mask is so much more than just a great game. It is a group of people with a 1-year development time doing the impossible. Reusing assets to save time, but also bringing life into dull NPC models from the game before. This whole game feels so alive and defied any and all odds of success. And they made a masterpiece. A true work of art. And it will be remembered as that for years to come. When I first came up with the idea of comparing these two games, I thought it would be impossible. How the hell can I even compare these games? They're both polar opposites to each other. But as I kept writing and noticing the similarities between these games, they were both outliers in their respective franchises, both with incredibly unique concepts compared to everything the series has done before. These games were both giant risks for their respective studios to take. But what makes a great game is being able to take those risks with confidence. And both these games succeed at that. Now, as we come to a close here, I just want to mention I feel like there was so much more to talk about with each game. But I'm getting my wisdom teeth out in a few days, and I'm probably editing this with immense pain. Isn't that right, wisdom toothless me? So before I announce the winner, I want to say both of these games are worthy of the praise I gave them today, and I highly recommend playing both. But there can only be one winner. Drum roll, please. And the winner is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Plain and simple, it's just a masterpiece. Anything about this game that struggles from age it makes up for with amazing, timeless writing. When I first started writing this video, I actually had Like a Dragon in mind as the winner. But as time went on, I started to remember all the amazing things Majora's Mask was able to accomplish, and how timeless the game was even after 20 years. Like a Dragon is an amazing work of art, and still one of my favorite stories in gaming. But it feels like everything is begging to be expanded upon. There's so much good in Like a Dragon, but I think it's simply held back by being the first of its kind. With that being said, the sequel game, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, is on the horizon. No promises I make a review on it, but this is definitely the chance to fix all the problems I mentioned and create one of the greatest RPGs of all time. And so there you have it, but that's all the time I have today. I gotta get back to playing Yakuza 5 on my Nintendo 3DS. And if you want to live large like me, make sure to hit that like button and whatever people say. I don't actually care, the credits are already rolling, we're kinda already saying goodbye, bye guys, bye!